So where I was going is that, so I think that sometimes you can overdo something and it defeats the purpose. You can do something so well in total that it defeats the purpose. And righteousness might be something like that, where, because the greatest righteousness, the greatest standpoint I think for a human being is to be humble. I genuflect and bow down before humility. So humility is excellent, and you could say that's the deepest value, the deepest virtue would be humility, because human beings are going to fail, and human beings are also going to need help, and you're actually not going to succeed in anything without both help and the failure that it would take to learn the lessons that it would need to accomplish something. So you're going to fail, and you're going to need help by necessity, and therefore you're going to have to be humble to ask for help. And you're also going to have to be humble to get the support to overcome failures, and to and what I wanted to say with this is atone for failures. So you think about, like, so I think that one of the deepest things about human, like even this emblem, that the red on there refers to the blood that unifies human beings, but not only human beings, all beings have, I think, maybe a version of blood, even plants. And that's like a life force, that's a connected life, that's like a liquid form of life force. And then you have our breath, which is another form of life force. I think in India that's called prana. So prana is actually, it's something within the air that is finer than what we appreciate as like air and oxygen, and it's a living force. And so if a person is holding their breath or choking, they're more so being deprived of prana than air particles or oxygen and carbon dioxide in itself. From the Indian standpoint, some traditions in India, like yoga, it's appreciated as prana. It's a deeper essence in reality. A lot of times in India, they have a knack for appreciating fine, subtle things, and sometimes things that we appreciate on the surface have a deeper, finer dimension, or just a different dimension that it's a reality, but we look past it sometimes in other cultures, like Western culture, where I would say maybe Western culture, if I had to say, there's a transcendence to anything, to any rule of thumb. So there's no rules of thumb, and the exception would be the only rule. If there's any rule to anything, it's just the exception is the rule. But in English terms, in English-speaking countries, Western countries, I'd say a lot of life, we appreciate it superficially. We appreciate things on the surface, and we engage things on the surface. Even our speech, a lot of our speech is very superficial. Yet Western cultures also have a knack and facility with science, and very deep, subtle aspects of science. That might actually be an overlap between some of the Eastern cultures and Western cultures, would be just in terms of subtlety, because both Eastern cultures and Western cultures have an appreciation for subtlety, I think, where you're talking about spiritual terms or scientific terms. And I think that the Order Osho said that it's interesting that a lot of people from India traditionally are interested and inspired to migrate to the West and undertake hard, objective science, brute science. And then a lot of people from the Western societies are interested in going to Eastern societies and learning like subtlety and like abstract things. And it's kind of interesting paradox there. But within all that, the appreciation of subtlety is what I think would be profound. So an example is that India points out the distinction between normal contemplation and a deeper, maybe higher or deeper form of concentration, just altered, called dhyana, which is different than normal contemplation. But I can't entirely enunciate that from learning about it or experiencing that. But I just know that there's such a distinction between ordinary consciousness, like they would have a distinction between waking, dreaming consciousness and dreaming while waking consciousness. Those are different degrees of profound consciousness. But then also dhyana, I think that might be different, or running through those, but different. But then another one is the appreciation of prana as the real life force within breathing. But all I meant to say is that this prana connects all of what's living, and maybe is all of what's living, and that can be appreciated in terms of air, but also maybe it's similar with blood. I don't know how that'd be appreciated, the similarity or the overlap between the life force, the blood that is common to all beings, and also the prana. And you could also almost say that, what does the prana do? What does the breathing do? It goes straight to the blood. So we have individual sets and volumes of blood in our body, all of us living beings. Yet that blood is informed, and it is sustained, and it is supported by the prana. So the prana is maybe like the collective life force. and then the blood would be like the individual life force that's not different than the collective life force, but it might have to do, it's like a closer, more intimate way of regulating the needs of a body. Whereas we're sharing the air, but we have a collective health that is the air, but then we have an individual health that is our own body, and that might afford us some of our liberties and strengths, where some people may make greater or poorer decisions around health, and have strong different things to contribute, and that would be reflected in the quality of the blood, I think, and then so we have our respective duties, privileges, obligations, shortcomings that would amount to our personal health, that is our blood. But that is not different from, and still is a part of our collective health, which would be our breathing. But that might be prana at all levels of that. But I'm not speaking from experience. I'm just reasoning as I'm creating the content, and that might actually be more valuable than something that was decided for or authoritative. Is to actually to exercise reason. And I was saying in the video before, is that we can actually discover things in a way of knowing and being and learning is just to reason things, and something can be valid if it's reasonable. That doesn't mean that it's defined, that it's definite and permanent, or that it's definitive, but it can be valuable, the reasoning. But we are to be humble, and so but you go to the point of spilling blood, like that's one thing that, so this reality can fix a lot of stuff. You can really some stuff can really get fixed, but sometimes I made another video say that Arthur Avalon says that many could not appreciate how awesome the saying is that what's great helps those that help themselves. Another dimension of that is recognizing what's great within an ordinary person. I said that in other videos, such as like what that would mean to experience someone with maybe a humble but effective weapon. Would that not be more terrible, awesome, and horrifying than a human being normally? Or a person with medicine, how redeeming, enlightening, and gracious could it be to have medicine that's needed? Or just support, mercy of different kinds, whether that be finance or food or whatnot. How much greater of a human would that feel like, though we still recognize that there's something greater within us and beyond us. But an ordinary person can appear as more than an ordinary person, but that could also be for you engaging your own situation. So if you're praying for support for something very difficult, and you actually are, say you actually are honored with your prayer or your request for succor. That's called succor, like when you get very significant support, vital support. And so your succor that you are beseeching. I think beseeching is like asking, like praying for something. You beseech succor, and you are honored and granted the succor that you have beseeched. Would you not be the most efficient and direct means of implementing perhaps a method or an approach, a strategy to your own transcending of a difficult circumstance? Would you not be the most forward agent member of the battle, the crisis, the situation that is your life? From that standpoint, if you do for yourself with what you have, with what you did not know you had, but you did have and you discovered you had by humbling yourself and praying and receiving insight, inspiration, you have an idea that to help yourself do something. That idea might be part of you and bigger than you, but you are still the closest, most effective agent in your own situation. In a lot of senses, you're the tip of the spear of your own life. So you, from that would speak to Arthur Avalon's statement. But also, generally speaking, if someone had a problem and that they needed help with that, they actually were not capable of implementing the real help that they need, would not the next closest person or the next human being be the most perhaps the most effective means? So what I'm saying is that if someone has fallen down on the ground and they need help, and an ordinary person is walking by, so someone falls on the ground and they pray for help. Help me. And someone's walking by and they hear someone say they need help, and they have exactly what they need for help, even if it's just a phone call, they help that person. Is that not what's great and awesome in an ordinary person walking by, helping that person as the most effective means of helping that person? The sky did not have to be parted to help that person, but something did have to be heard. And it was heard broad, but it was also heard in an ordinary person walking by. That's part of what's broad that helps someone. So I just wanted to say that. But we are to be humble. So I'm going to keep going.